You know, when you think of truly iconic weapons, the hand grenade has got to be near the top of the list. And on the surface, it seems pretty simple, right? It's a small thing you throw and then it goes boom. But packed inside that little shell is a masterpiece of precision engineering, a history that goes back more than 1,000 years, and a really fascinating story about how warfare itself has changed.
So picture this. It's the dawn of the 20th century. Military minds are looking to the future, and they are absolutely certain that the hand grenade is done for. They saw it as a relic, a throwback to a more primitive kind of fighting. In 1902, the British War Office made it official. Hand grenades are obsolete. No place in modern war. Remember that.
Because, and get this, just a handful of years after being declared totally obsolete, over 75 million hand grenades were made for World War I. So what gives? How on earth does a weapon that's officially headed for the museum become one of the most critical tools on the battlefield? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Okay, so to understand the grenade's explosive, yeah, I said it, comeback, we actually need to look way, way back. Because it turns out the idea of throwing an explosive at your enemy is about as old as it gets. And I mean way back. As early as the 8th century, you've got the Byzantine Empire chucking clay jars filled with Greek fire at enemy ships. Then, in the 11th century, China cooked up the Zentine lei, which translates to sky-shaking thunder, the first real grenade packed with gunpowder. The idea kept evolving, and by the 17th century, armies had Grenadiers, elite soldiers picked specifically for their strength and skill at throwing these things.
So why did it ever become obsolete? Well, the answer is all about a new problem. Wars like the Russo-Japanese War, and then of course World War I, introduced this brutal new reality: trench warfare. All of a sudden you have entire armies dug into the ground, hiding in trenches, totally protected from direct rifle fire. And that created a huge tactical problem.
And this brings us to a really important military term you gotta know: defilade. It just means being in a position where you're protected from direct fire. So you're in a trench, behind a wall, over the crest of a hill. Think about it. A bullet flies straight. It can't magically bend around a corner. But a grenade? You can lob that thing right over a wall or into a trench. It's like having your own personal pocket-sized artillery. It's the perfect solution for the problem of defilade.
All right, so we know why the grenade came back. It filled a critical need. But the how this thing actually works, well, that's where the genius engineering really shines. Let's take a look inside this little 4-second machine.
Just look at this cutaway. A grenade is so much more than just a metal can with some explosive powder inside. It's a precise mechanism built from the ground up for safety and for reliability. You can see all the main players here: the outer body, the safety lever, often called the spoon, the pin, and right in the middle, the heart of the whole thing, the fuse assembly that kicks off the entire reaction.
So let's walk through what happens in those 4 or 5 seconds. First, you pull the pin. Now, here's the most important part. Absolutely nothing happens yet. As long as you're holding that safety lever down, it's perfectly safe. But the second you throw it, that lever springs off. That releases a little spring-loaded hammer or striker. It flips over, smacks a primer, which creates a spark. That spark lights a slow-burning chemical fuse. That's your 4 to 5 second timer. And once that fuse burns all the way down, boom! It's a perfect controlled chain reaction every single time. So when you boil it all down, every single grenade, doesn't matter what kind, has these 3 basic parts. You've got the body, which is the container. You've got the filler, that's the active ingredient that does all the work. And you've got the fuse assembly, the brains of the operation that starts that ticking clock.
And that filler we just talked about, that's where things get really interesting. Because what you put inside the grenade's body completely changes its job. It's not just one weapon, it's a whole toolbox.
Yeah, they come in a surprising number of flavors, and you can see a few of them here. Each one is a specialized tool built for a very specific task. You've got your classic fragmentation grenades, concussion grenades for clearing rooms, smoke grenades for cover. There are even non-lethal and practice versions. Okay, let's compare a few, because this is cool. A fragmentation grenade has a hard steel body designed to shatter into hundreds of deadly little pieces. But an offensive grenade, which is meant for enclosed spaces, has a body made of cardboard or fiberglass. Why? Because you want the pure blast wave, the concussion, without spraying shrapnel back at yourself. Then you have incendiary grenades filled with thermat, which burns at an insane 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's for melting enemy equipment. It's all about using the right tool for the job.
Now, this whole toolbox of different grenades, it didn't just pop into existence. The 20th century, especially the two world wars, was a period of incredibly rapid and brutal innovation.
And one of the biggest game changers was the British Mills bomb back in 1915. See, the first grenades in World War I were, well, they were sketchy, really unreliable, often just as dangerous to the person throwing them. The Mills bomb changed everything. It introduced that pin and lever safety system we just talked about and had a reliable 4-second fuse. It was the first truly safe, modern grenade, and it basically set the design standard for the next 100 years.
Okay, time to bust a myth. Probably one of the biggest in military history. The iconic pineapple grenade. You see those grooves and you think, aha, that's to make it break apart into perfect little death squares. Nope, not at all. That's completely false. The grooves were just there to give you a better grip when you're throwing it. The reality is, that thick cast iron body shattered into a few big, unpredictable chunks. Not a great design, really. So that flaw in the pineapple design actually led to the next big leap forward. Engineers figured out that if you want nice, predictable fragmentation, you can't just rely on the outer shell breaking apart. So modern grenades, like the M67, have a smooth body. The magic is on the inside. It's lined with a notched or preformed wire coil that is guaranteed to shatter into hundreds of uniform, high-speed fragments. It's a way smarter and way deadlier design.
So, what a journey, right? From clay pots of Greek fire all the way to these high-tech, internally scored steel spheres. The grenade has had a pretty remarkable evolution. But what's its place in the world today?
You know, there's a quote that I think just nails it. The modern hand grenade isn't a weapon that's constantly being reinvented. Why? Because for what it does, it's pretty much perfect. The combination of a powerful explosive and a super reliable, safe fuse has made it a tool that infantry soldiers simply cannot do without.
And that's really the bottom line here. The technology of war is always changing, but the basic problems of fighting on the ground, those don't change. There are always going to be trenches, walls, and hills blocking your line of sight. And for as long as that's true, soldiers will need a simple, reliable way to reach into those hidden corners.
Which kind of leaves us with one last big question. We live in this age of drones, of smart bombs, of cyber warfare. So what's the long-term future for a weapon that is still fundamentally analog? A weapon you still have to throw with your own arm. It's a pretty interesting thing to think about. Where do simple, reliable tools fit in the future of conflict?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.